Hi everyone, welcome back. My name is Sally and I'm a mixed media artist in Australia, and recently I uploaded a video about one of the methods that I use for when I have a little bit of art block, and today I'm going to expand on that. I had a couple people ask me to, and I am listening and I'm here for you and I live to give. So here we're going to talk about 5 more ideas for when you have art block. So grab your supplies, get comfy, let's go. I don't think that'll matter too much. Hello, babies. Make it simple. Happy with that? Because she is. Tip number 1, use Pinterest boards to inspire you. One of my favorite things to do is to just scroll through Pinterest and curate little boards for myself. So I get quite specific with them. Like I have a nose reference and I have hand reference. And anytime I see something that just catches my eye, I just save it to that board. And then it's good to use as a tool to practice a specific like facial feature or animal or whatever it is you want to do. And I'll pop in some pictures here of some pages that I've done just from specific, like one specific subject. So I went to my art reference photos board and thought I would use that to find some inspiration to do some portraits on this sketchbook page. And the great thing about Pinterest is you can just save things as you see them, and sometimes something will just catch your eye and it doesn't matter why or what the reason, but if you just save it in a board somewhere, you can come back to it at another stage. I even have boards that are based around color. So, like I have a teal aesthetic board, and you can create whole boards of inspiration just around a color, and that can help you break out of a rut if you just grab all your supplies or things that are around that color palette. And you can get some ideas from your Pinterest board about what to make with those colors. And I've said this before, but I get ideas as I'm making art, and that's the catch-22 of it, is because if you don't have an idea of what to make to start with, then how do you start? So my Pinterest references are always really handy because I can just scroll through, see what catches my eye for that day. And today it was some black and white portraits, some sort of higher contrast portraits of women. I tend to save like the things that just interest me. I like to capture emotion, so I look for emotion, I look for light and shadow and composition and things like that. So, but everybody is going to be into different things, and the great thing about Pinterest is that everything is there. I will just remind you again though that these are not copyright free images. So if you're looking to use Pinterest as direct reference for art that you're intending to sell, then that's something that you'll need to consider. And you can use sites like Unsplash, and there's plenty of royalty-free image sites that you can use for royalty-free images, but Pinterest is not one of them, so please keep that in mind. But Pinterest is perfect for when you have an afternoon free and you've got your sketchbook out and your favorite supplies, and you either just want to warm up, it's great for warm ups, or you just want to practice a certain subject, I find it super duper helpful because you'll find literally everything on there. I was using it to find inspiration for fashion. When I did in my last sketchbook, I did sketchbook pages based on like decades of fashion looks. I used it for my 100 hands that I closed out that sketchbook with. Yeah, it's great. And I'll link my Pinterest in the description box down below so you can have a look at the things that I've saved and you can use some of my references if you like, and hopefully it'll help you. So I knew that I wanted to use my favorite Blackwing graphite pencil, so I really just looked for portraits that I knew would suit this medium. So I was looking for, yeah, black and white portraits in particular, and these are the ones I found, and I'm really happy with the way this turned out. And I didn't intend it to them to have, well, three of the portraits have their hands by their face, and I didn't intend that to happen, but it just turned out that way. So it's interesting to see how, without even consciously thinking that you're creating something specific, it all just sort of flows out of you. And that's the cool thing about just sitting down with your sketchbook and just making some art. And if you're feeling stuck for ideas, just getting the sketchbook out, popping pencil to paper, that's, for me personally, that's the biggest way to shift any kind of blockage that I have. So Pinterest has been really, really helpful for me for that. So I'd love to hear your thoughts. Like, what kind of portrait reference do you like to like? Do you gravitate towards? I like things with, yeah, more emotion in them, and hands are always good because they really stretch me because they're very, very difficult. So yeah, let me know. But I'm like the way this turned out. Tip number two: draw your environment or create still lifes from objects around your house. So, my next tip, and this is something that I've been meaning to do here for ages because my view is so beautiful. And I do have some ideas for, I want to do the view from my studio throughout the seasons, but I haven't done that yet. But today I'm just going to sit at my desk and draw what's in front of me. Now, this is a really good idea because it again gets you out of your comfort zone, because like I'm primarily a portrait artist and I don't generally draw objects or still lifes or anything like that. So just sitting down and just drawing exactly what was on my desk, including the cats, was quite challenging for me. It used a completely different part of my brain. I had to think of things in a completely different way. And I purposefully used a black fine liner to do this. So I would have to commit to the lines I was putting down. For me personally, I find that if I overthink it too much and I have the option to erase or not commit to something, then I just won't do it. So this was a way for me to just, like, I had to just put the lines down and be confident with it. And I think it really worked out. This was really fun to work on. I just sat in my studio, I listened to a podcast, hung out with the cats. There's always at least one of them in here, and just drew my pencils and my brushes and my plants. And it was a really fun little day. So, again, this is just an idea to get you drawing, to get you started, because once you start making something, you'll start thinking about other things. And I started thinking about how I could do those studio portraits of my environment. And I've been living here for almost a year and I've had this idea for so long and I've never done it because I thought it would be too difficult. But now I'm thinking it's not that difficult. Like, as much as I didn't capture the view so much in this drawing, it did give me the confidence to actually start working towards doing that, as we're in winter now, and seeing how the landscape changes throughout the seasons. I also had to draw my cup of coffee, which is a staple with me in the studio. And I thought it would be fun to draw my sketchbook with my hand drawing as I was drawing. So while I did commit with the ink, I did use very light line pressure. Uh, and then I just went over everything afterwards after I'd sort of sketched it out. So you can still use ink and commit to that, but in a way that you can kind of alter your mistakes if you make any. So yeah, I think it worked out. I like this page. Even just capturing things like the patterns on my brush holders and the texture of my journal. Things that I look at every single day, but I've never once thought about how to draw them. This kind of, yeah, stretched some new art muscles for me. This is very unlike what I usually do. And that's a great thing. So, what if you'd never done still lifes or landscapes or anything like that, and then one day you just decided to, because you had art block and you just wanted to like make something, and then you discover that you have this whole passion for drawing little cute little environments, and you never thought that you would be good at it. You could unlock a new skill. I really liked drawing this plant, for instance, and I find plants really intimidating. I don't know why, but I look at them and I love them, and I think, how the hell do I draw that? But I think this one was successful, and I always love drawing the cats. One thing I wasn't sure about though was like what my hand is drawing in my sketchbook as I'm drawing in my sketchbook, and what am I going to put on the paper? So I was thinking about that. Like, do I draw this whole scene again on the sketchbook and have it like sketchbook inception? So I'm thinking, and I just was like, nah, I'm just going to do this. So yeah, I really like the way this turned out. Is I don't usually do just ink fine liner drawings, illustrations. I don't do really still lifes, so this was kind of cool to do. And then later that night, I was thinking, what if I grabbed some of the stuff around my house and did a still life? And it's the same kind of idea, but I was picking objects from the house that were interesting that I wanted to put into a composition to draw rather than what was just like laid out in front of me. So I have these ceramic dogs that my mum gave me, and one is made of lettuces and one is like cauliflower. They are the weirdest things, and I don't know why she gave them to me. But I thought, let's draw the little lettuce dog. And I've got a bunch of skulls lying around the house, you know me. So I grabbed the lettuce dog and skull. There was already a candle on the table, so I used that. And I grabbed a little vase with some flowers and three of my favorite books. And I created a little composition on my table, and I just sat down with my colored pencils and drew that. So, if anyone knows anything about these weird ceramic dogs, please leave a comment because they're so strange. But I love them, and they both sit in my studio. It was actually kind of difficult to find things because I wanted the composition to be interesting, but I didn't want it to be really difficult. Like I'd already drawn all day. But then I realized that the whole point is just to just do it, you know? So I knew I wanted to put the dog in there and I knew I wanted to include a skull, but the other things were just pretty much just things that were on the table or close by, and I just grabbed them and did it. And also, like, fruits and vegetables are pretty classic still life subject matter. They're always fun to do. Like I said, I'm still a little bit intimidated by plants, so I didn't want to do my plants, but I did add some flowers into the vase, so I would have to attempt that. And the three books, just for your reference, are Jean-Paul Sartre, Nausea, Bell Hooks, All About Love, and Dave Eggers, You Shall Know Our Velocity. And I love all those three books and highly recommend. And I just added a little pencil background, and that was my little still life. So, yeah, not my favorite sketchbook page, but it was something new that I'd never done before. Tip number 3, redraw a piece of your old art. Now, this one, I knew I wanted to include this tip, but this is not something I've ever done before, and I really didn't know what on earth I was going to choose. I have moved under 12 months ago, and a lot of my stuff is like still packed up, stuff that I don't need. That my studio cupboard's full. And I was remembering this drawing that I did of David Bowie over 10 years ago now. And it was very impactful. It was a very impactful piece for me when I did it. And I know I've got it around somewhere, but I cannot find it. So I will insert some pictures here for you so you can see what the original piece looked like. Basically, with the original drawing, so my grandmother gave me my first set of proper fancy pencils when I was 12 years old. And I was a kid who was always drawing, always making art. And she gave me my first set of proper pencils and really like set me on the path that I'm on now. I went to art school and did an associate diploma of visual art after high school with a major in painting and a minor in photography. And then life stuff happened and art got pushed aside, and I never had enough time to make it because I was working a full-time job and all that sort of thing. And I always wanted to get back to this part of me, and I never had the time. And I ended up sort of falling into live music photography, and that kept me really, really busy, and art sort of felt further and further away. But when my grandmother passed away, there was just something just clicked in me, and I opened up this book that I have, this David Bowie book, Moonage Daydream, And I opened up this book and I flipped it to this page, and this image just like screamed out at me, and I drew it. And it was really the first proper drawing I'd done in probably 10 years. And I was really stoked with how it turned out, and it really gave me the confidence to keep going with it. And there was a Bowie exhibition that came through Melbourne a few years later, and he had not passed away yet. He was still with us, but this photo was actually in the exhibition, like the actual photo. And I turned the corner and I saw it and I cried, and it was this whole connection to my grandmother and my art, and it was really overwhelming, and I'm getting a little bit emotional thinking about it. But yeah, when I started thinking about redrawing a piece of my art, then this just had to be the one. Like, this just had to be it. But I wanted to do it in a completely different style to the original, and also in a sort of different way to what I usually make art now. So I used alcohol markers and a little bit of colored pencil on top, and I'm stoked with it. Tip number 4, go on location. Get out of your comfort zone. All right, so today we're going to head to a bakery cafe near me, sit down with the sketchbook and draw some things that are in front of me. So this is similar to the one where I was at my studio desk just drawing my environment. That vegan galette was delicious, by the way. But this one you have an extra challenge because you're out in public and your subjects are constantly moving. So it's almost like life drawing in that way. You really have to be quick. It's like gesture drawing. You have to be quick to capture your subjects. So yeah, I just sat down for an afternoon, had a couple of coffees, had my sketchbook, met a really lovely Japanese woman who was sitting next to me, who introduced herself to me, and we talked about art, and that was really cool. So yeah, highly recommend just getting out of your comfort zone, whether it's out into a landscape location or just out into a local cafe, and just sit and enjoy making some art in your sketchbook. Because you'll find that you'll learn something new, and you'll do something new, and you'll get a new idea. And that's what this is all about. So I've made art, like I've taken my sketchbook to cafes before, but I've not filmed there. So it was a little out of my comfort zone. And I just did some very rough kind of sketches of the environment and the people. So some quick portrait studies of the people that were at the cafe. So yeah, that's just another idea, just to get you out of your comfort zone and starting to think in a different way, because often more ideas will be sparked from that. So go for it. Tip number 5, fan art. Draw the things that you love. So fan art's one of those things that I tend to do when I just want to get a portrait out and I've been watching a show or something that I really love, or listening to some music that I love, and I just find that I naturally gravitate towards wanting to draw that subject. So here's a set of postcards that I made of the characters of The Sopranos. That's an example of fan art. My monthly faves sketchbook could also be considered fan art, because I generally will have, we've got Brendan Fraser there, we've got Pamela Anderson, we had Kurt Cobain last month. So my last sketchbook I had Justin Hawkins, because I was listening to The Darkness heap, so I just did a page of him. Sketchbooks, I just did this page of Twin Peaks portraits using alcohol markers, and I did this on a TikTok live stream, and I'm going to do the Man of Twin Peaks on the opposite side. I just haven't finished that yet. And then I've got another sketchbook. And this one, Succession. So yeah, fan art is cool. Like, it's a really good way to just flex your muscles, get some portrait practice in, and I think it's amazing. I've also done some standalone pieces. Billie Eilish in watercolor and pencil, and a couple of my favorite drag queens. So we've got Shea Coulee and Tace. So get inspired by the media that you're watching, listening to, and use that to inspire you to create art. So that is it for this video. I hope at least one of these ideas gives you some inspiration and some help next time you get stuck for ideas. Please feel free to let me know in the comments what your go-to tips are for when you're stuck, and let me know if you had any successes. And thank you so much for being here, and I'll see you next time.